So, as many of you probably experienced, the first Trump administration was really marked by protectionism, unpredictability, and really the broad use of special tariffs. Of note was the Section 301 tariffs that was really used for the first time in a broad-based way. I was just mentioning, this usually meant that companies had to pivot their supply chains very quickly. You didn't know who the next target was, and you really had to diversify your supply chain and leave or diversify away from China, because that seemed to be a target of the Trump administration in that first term. We expect, based on the campaign promises that were made, that we're going to see much the same in the coming year and in the next 4 years. And it seems like Trump is actually leaning even more aggressively into his protectionist trade policies. And he's going beyond China. While China is a special focus, it seems like no country is safe right now. And he is really leaning into tariffs as a negotiation tactic for America. So he has said that he's going to apply universal tariffs across the board. He campaigned on that. He said it was going to be 10 to 20% on all imports. We don't know that if that's going to be on top of the current standard tariffs or if that's going to be encompassed in the standard tariffs. Actually, much of what I'm saying right now, we don't know what will definitively happen, but we do know that tariffs or increased tariffs are going to happen. We really do expect that there is going to be an imposition of higher tariffs on goods from China. The Trump administration is going to be tough on China as a whole, and some of the people in his cabinet, some of his appointees are really telling in terms of what the strategy is going to be starting in January. He's also said that he's going to possibly revoke China's most favorite nation status. That would mean that for those of you in the trade world, your tariffs would go from the column 1 tariff to the column 2 provisions of tariffs. Right now, column 2, so that you have an example, includes Cuba, Belarus, Russia, and a couple other countries like Iran. So as you can imagine, the tariffs are going to be higher under that category too. I've been hearing for China, it was going to be between 30% to 100%, and there would be a ramp up period for that. Trump has also said that he's going to ban certain essential imports from China, so critical products for the United States. So if you are doing business in China, which I think most energy companies are in some way or form, particularly because most cells come from China, you should start thinking about this, planning for this, diversifying your supply chain, looking at options. In addition, there are now possibly going to be tariffs on our standard trading allies. Trump has said that he's going to impose tariffs on Mexico imports, and those would range from 25 to 100%. It would ramp up in 25% increments, and that would be really to persuade Mexico to stem the tide of illegal immigration, the migrants coming in from Mexico. He did, in his first administration, raise this possibility, but it was never implemented. I would say that based on his campaign promises, it's a more likely factor that this would be implemented this time. So for those of you that do business in Mexico, that's something that you should think about. And to that point, there is the USMCA renegotiations that are scheduled to occur in 2026. So to the extent that you do business in Mexico or Canada, you should watch out for changes to that program and to that special program. I think that the US is really going to use its powers of persuasion, its power to persuade Mexico and Canada to take actions in connection with forced labor, in connection with labor practices generally, and content or domestic content generally, to get what they want in this renegotiation. Trump has also said that he's going to implement increased tariffs on countries that no longer tie their currency to the US dollar. So that's not many countries, but some countries have looked into that. He has also said that he's going to impose company or product specific tariffs on companies that ship manufacturing out of the United States. As we know, the US has been struck with inflation. So there are certain companies like the John Deere company that has said that they were going to leave the United States. But Trump said that he was going to impose 200% tariffs. And as a result, they decided not to leave the United States. So that's something else to watch for. And of course, we can't take action without expecting other countries to take reciprocal action. And that's really where it could hurt us. So whenever we implemented tariffs, other countries also did so. Reciprocal tariffs should be expected in China, possibly Mexico, if we do implement these 25 to 100% tariffs, and then also the EU, which has sort of been on the list as well. In terms of non-tariff actions, well, I guess they are still linked to tariffs, but you've heard of many Chinese companies that are investing in plants in the North American region. There could be some restrictions in terms of Chinese ownership. There could also be restrictions on outbound investments. In terms of tariff reform, we do expect that there will be tariff exclusions that will be allowed if all these tariffs come into place. There were actually more tariff exclusions granted during the Trump administration than the Biden administration, which was somewhat surprising to many. So we can expect that there are going to be many tariff exclusion processes depending on the authority that Trump uses to implement these tariffs, depending on how long that they go. So expect the unexpected.
Visit Sinovoltaics.com to learn more.